Go live. Go live. Oh. Yes. All right, beautiful people. Getting everything together. Get yourself together right now. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday. All right. All right, y'all. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. All right, y'all. Got this all squared away somewhat. Gotta move this back to the big old book. Big OAHSPE. Okay. All right, y'all. Happy Tuesday. It is April the 12th, 2022, day 80 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1098. Today, we're going to get through the introduction of Big Blue, the OAHSPE, and then we're going to read on them. I made it to the introduction over here. And then we're going to pick up, we made it through the introduction, and we actually start the first chapter in the meditation book. All right, so Father, we thank you for another day. Lead us and guide us into all truth, as you do always. All right, y'all, so let's go back to where we stopped. Introduction. Quote, how could I have believed anything less of the kind Father of life? His wise omnipotence could only do what was best and tenderest from the very constitution of his nature, of his nature of divine love. How could I doubt in God what I, in my little wisdom, should have planned to meet human needs? End quote. Let me read that again. Last part of the sentence didn't make sense. Okay. How could I have believed anything less of the kind Father of life? His wise omnipotence could only do what was best and tenderest from the very constitution of his nature of divine love. How could I doubt in God what I, in my little wisdom, should have planned to meet human needs? End quote. And that is by Walter DeVoe, the book You Will Not Die, 1907. Adi Shalom, Mom, Shalom, Shalom. All right, y'all. The title, and we're on page, we're in the introduction. It's a Roman numeral. I don't know. XIII. The title of the book, OAHSPE, means literally sky, earth, and spirit. O for sky, A for earth, and SPE for spirit. The book is a product of automatic writing which occurred through the hands of a medium, Dr. John B. Newborough, over the course of 1 year, 1881, in New York City. Now, I don't necessarily like the term medium here, because I find, if you ever experienced it, you would understand. Let's just say it in church terms. If you've ever felt the overshadowing of the Holy Spirit or the Spirit of Yah come upon you, you tend to do things under that anointing that you couldn't do when that isn't resting on you, right? So I felt that, and I had that happen to me before, not in my writing, but in my speaking. The very first time I experienced it, I was still active duty military, and I was out to sea. And I was speaking with one of the girls who was in the weapons division. V4 was weapons, I think. Yeah, V5. Anyway, one of them, they was in the weapons. She was in a weapons division, She wore a red shirt. But what happened was I seen her on the mess decks or down where we eat at the mess decks, and we were already kind of good friends, but you know, I didn't know everything that was going on with her. And one day I seen her, I was going to the birthing, and she looked like she was coming from the birthing. At this time, the weapons birthing for the women, they hadn't quite merged with our birthing yet. So she had a different sleep quarters than what we did. But she was coming, she looked like she was in a daze. And mind you, we out to sea, right? We really shouldn't be, you know, focused on anything else except for the job at hand. You know, she wasn't married. She didn't have any children. I wasn't sure if anything was going on with her parents or whatever. But she was coming from the mess that's like looking distraught, like almost in tears, but kind of like in a mix of like this daze where I could tell and I could literally feel that something wasn't right with her. And I stopped, and I was about to say the girl name. I said her name, and then I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Mm-hmm," like just like that. And it was like at that moment, because I put my hand on, I stopped because I was really concerned. I put my hand on, I said her name. I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "Mm-hmm," like trying to hide it. And I immediately, and this was the very first time, it was something. I would say at this point, it was amazing how it happened, because at that moment, like almost immediately, the spirit of Yah, I felt his spirit like overshadow me like I had never felt before. And he literally began to speak through me to her. It was like I was a bystander listening to this conversation that was being had between me and this particular female. But it was literally, that was the first time I've ever felt like the spirit of Yah just kind of like use my tongue. Like he didn't like take over me. Mind you, we was out to sea. Had no worries really. I only had Elijah. Me and Jane wasn't married yet. So my son was with my aunts. This was my very first med cruise. And all I was doing while I was out there was, if I wasn't at work, I was reading my Bible. I was praying. I was meditating. So I was ripe. I was the ripest vessel at the moment, because I was completely yielded to the spirit of Yah. I had no cares, worries, anything. My dreams was off the charts out there. I constantly heard him talking to me. So at that moment, like I was already yielded, not like, "Father, I need a word for her." None of that happened. I simply saw her and I could feel it. Although she said, "Mm-hmm, everything's okay," and I could tell she was trying to hide it, it was like immediately I felt that, right? So I shared that story because some people may read this, like when I read this and how he said this happened, they call him a medium, and how this was written as a product of automatic writing. I don't necessarily, I understand it to be a little bit different when they say it. Now, today I do. Based on my experiences and bringing things together, I understand it to be something a little bit different. Alazar, shalom. Francis, shalom. Auntie, Belinda Brown, shalom, family. Okay. So that's why I shared the little story, because they said this book is a product of automatic writing, which occurred through the hands of a medium, Dr. John B. Newborough, over the course of 1 year in 1881 in New York City. The book stated that it was written by an overshadowing of angelic beings who are not a separate order in creation, but are actually our elder brothers and sisters, once mortals like us, but now high raised in wisdom through countless years of growth and experience. I missed a very important part, sharing that little story. A few days later, I actually found out what was happening with my particular friend in the military. Although she wasn't married, she was actually involved with another guy who was active duty military on the same ship with us in her division. Now, how this was happening some people knew. See, but they didn't work below decks like us, but everybody had little cuts in the ship. So if something was happening, you couldn't really hear it for real. Like if a fight was breaking out, you got the watertight hatch doors and stuff. Some of the people in the division knew what was happening, but dude was beating the brakes off of her, right? So what happened? A couple days later, we were out to sea. We actually pulled into port somewhere and he got in trouble while we were in port, and he got in trouble. I think it was divinely orchestrated, because I didn't realize it was as bad as it was, right? Because he had even threatened to kill her. Like he's just like, I was like, this dude is a monster. Like, how have y'all been keeping this hidden? We've been locked up here with Incredible Hulk. Like, seriously, that's what he looked like. Dude worked out like every day. Every time you see him, he had a weight in his hand. You know, his neck is all big and thick. I'm like, first of all, how you even get involved with Mr. Hulk? But seriously, dude, and she was probably about my build. She was my height, you know, like I am now. But dude was a monster. You know, you look at like, oh my God, girl, what does he do with you? Right? So that's how he looked when you would see him. You know, but he was pretty face, you know. He was like mixed. He almost looked like a Samoan, but he had real pretty skin. And when you look at him, you know, you could tell, dude, big and bulky, you might not want to mess with him, you know, but he didn't have that demeanor about himself. Like, I beat women for a living, you know. He didn't have that demeanor, but he really did. And he was beating the brakes off of her. And I had just found it out. Clearly, y'all knew, you know. I remember the conversation that was being had between y'all and her. Just, I'm like a bystander, being the body to be able to talk to her, right? Because a little bit later, she was actually contemplating on taking her own life, you know, while we was out to sea. But what happened a couple of days later, when we pulled into port, Mr. Hulk actually got in trouble while off the ship on Liberty Call. And he had gotten in so much trouble with the locals. He went to captain's mast, and they threw him in the brig the rest of the time, right? So I'm like, yo, this was divinely orchestrated by y'all. First of all, dude was thrown in jail, yeah, because of his shenanigans out there, but to keep her safe. She had so much peace the rest of the time we was out to sea. We had about 2 more months left out to sea, you know, and he was in the brig every last single day, you know. So I done seen some things happen, you know. So when I hear this, like the overshadowing and things like this happen to people, I'm like, I believe it. I experienced it in a different way, and I seen the results of it. But some people's like, oh, it's kind of witchcrafty and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't really believe that today. Now knowing what I know and understanding some things a little bit better, especially than I did even last year, I'm like, I'm gonna hear you out because I got some questions still myself. Okay, so I started telling you that story, but you really needed to hear the end part of it on why it really kind of went together and why I even shared it, right? Okay. All right. Hold on. They stated that the OAHSPE is not a perfect book, nor is it the alpha and omega of knowledge. Rather, it is like a traveler's guide to greater spiritual growth and understanding. Its purpose is to give us an insight while yet in mortality of what the world of the spirit is really like and what the general history of the world has been. As a result, it gives us greater clarity regarding our true purpose and destiny as the immortal, eventually angelic souls that we are. Remember, we are souls. All of us are souls in school on the earth with the flesh vehicle. Okay, just remember it. New students of OAHSPE may ask, why would such a book be written at all? Why in 1881 and not some other year? Why through an unknown personality like John Monroe and not through someone more famous? Why in so questionable a form as automatic writing rather than appearing in a burst of light already completed on a tablet of gold and exhibited for all to see? First of all, OAHSPE states that we have entered a new era, one in which we will eventually see the maturity of humanity. It explains that this is part of the natural evolution of any inhabited planet. OAHSPE indicates that habited planets are a frequent occurrence throughout our vast universe, which is a perfectly reasonable idea to accept considering the vastness of infinity. What are the odds of there being more than one planet with life, if there are an infinite number of planets to choose from? We entered this new era not long before this book was written, and efforts at we entered this new era not long before this book was written, and efforts at enlightenment, such as OAHSPE, are standard operating procedures at those times. Revelations are divinely inspired in more than one form, in more than one place, in varying shapes and styles, so that the greatest number of people can be reached according to their varied abilities to accept and understand. These inspirational efforts have been and will continue to be applied to the full spectrum of knowledge, from the purely spiritual, like OAHSPE, to inspire hard science like E equals MC squared. The eventual result will be a mature balance between both spiritual and material knowledge throughout all of humanity, but evolving within an era extending thousands of years, a blink of an eye to those who are beyond mortality. The transmission of OAHSPE by automatic writing should not be a surprise. Spirit communion is normal, natural, and not as difficult as some people are led to believe. It actually occurs much more frequently than most people consciously realize, being typically pretermitted as vague. Okay, let me read it. It says pretermitted. It actually occurs much more frequently than most people consciously realize, being typically pretermitted as vague imagings, intuitive impressions, or even fortuitous premonitions. It is only labeled as evil by those who lack understanding, or by those who believe that they can only maintain their misguided agenda by suppressing honest investigation and keeping us ignorant of the true state of affairs. Knowing their agenda will not stand up to logic and intelligent inquiry. They have learned that inducing fear can serve their interests. Fear and ignorance have long been established as interrelated in nature. It is a sobering realization for the duplicitous that most people, if allowed the unfettered freedom to think for themselves, will eventually arrive at a place closer to the truth. Early in this new era, many people with mediumistic abilities were raised, guided, and groomed by the angels who have us in their care. It just happened that John Monroe was the right person in the right place at the right time, the one who had the best ability and development at the time. The angelic overshadowing was ready to carry out this effort in education. Automatic writing was apparently the most efficient way to transmit the information required at that place and time. In this case, the writing was accomplished through the means of a typewriter, but the principle remains the same. Through the natural development and training, an individual becomes able to enter a passive, meditative state that allows an intelligence other than one's own to take control of the body's mechanical functions temporarily. Kind of what I was just explaining, y'all. What happened? This is good. Hold on, let me go back. Through natural development. Mind you, I started reading through this, but I was kind of skipping around because I know we was going to read it today together. Starting yesterday together, going through every page through page. So I was hopping through the stuff like the chapters on like reincarnation and all this other stuff, So I'm just now seeing this part right here for the first time myself. Trina, hey girl, hey. Okay. Hold on. Let me go back. Automatic writing was apparently the most efficient way to transmit the information required at that place and time. In this case, the writing was accomplished through the means of a typewriter, but the principle remains the same. Through natural development and training, an individual becomes able to enter a passive, meditative state that allows an intelligence other than one's own to take control of the body's mechanical functions temporarily and right under that control. This is a form of mediumship that has been used countless times throughout history, whether by type, pencil, brush, or by hand directly on tablets of sand. Dr. Newbro explained in his own words how OAHSPE was written in a letter he sent to a magazine, The Banner of Light, in Boston, reprinted at the end of the introduction. Death, as we call it, is not the end of our existence. Uh-oh. Y'all still there? YouTube, my whole screen flickered. Y'all still there? Somebody say something. The time running, but the little thing popped up where it, you still here? Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. All right, cool. All right. I saw it flickering and it said your connection is unstable. I don't know what happened because right before I was about to come downstairs this morning, there was like a power glitch and the power went out. And then it came right back on. Now the clocks are flashing 12, Verizon files then started over rebooting, so I'm not sure if that's why. Okay. All right. I'm keep reading. Alicia, yeah. Hey, girl. Hey. Okay. Death, as we call it, is not the end of our existence, but rather the beginning of the real life for which we were created. Well, we just found that out by going through our studies trying to find out what in the world is going on. We just learned this recently, right? Well, at least I did. Y'all probably knew. I'm just finding out. Like, death is the beginning of real life. It's death here, death at this school, but you might be having to come back and repeat the grade. As indestructible spiritual beings, we are all immortal souls destined for growth far above and beyond the limited experiences we have while residing for a brief time on earth. On first crossing the veil between mortality and the life in spirit, our friends and relatives who have just passed on are not as far away as some of us imagine, for the transformation of death is more a change in dimension than distance. Consequently, one does not have to wait long for loving assistance from friends and family when first passing into spirit life. Matter of fact, a lot of them show up when you about to cross over. The ones that's still hanging around, oh, Johnny about to come, y'all come on, we're going to greet him, right? We know something be happening. Because especially if you got an animal or something in the room, when somebody about to pass, they sense them appearing. And if they're coherent, if the person who was about to pass is coherent enough, they will begin to see them because their bodies, their spirits are getting ready to let go of the flesh. And they have greeters there waiting for them, and they can see them, and they can talk to them, and they can hear them. And our animals can hear and see them. Right? I've seen it. My aunt's dog, when my grandma was about to pass, ran into the bathroom. I don't know who showed up, but the dog ran into the bathroom in the hospice place and didn't come back out. Right? That proximity, let me go back. Consequently, one does not have to wait long for loving assistance from friends and family when first passing into spirit life. That proximity is what also allows communication between our realm and theirs to occur when appropriate preparations are provided. This is because all of us, whether spirit or mortal, dwell in the same sea of mind, the all mind, and it is through that same all-pervading medium that we are all forever inextricably linked together in thought. The only catch is that the sudden transformation at death does not instill in us any sudden injection of wisdom, a relative quality that grows only by ongoing experience through the infinite eons before us. At first, we are, at best, not very different than we are in mortality. When we leave this plane with very much the same intelligence and understanding we had as mortals. For that reason, communications from the realm of the spirit are not necessarily true or accurate. We should not accept information as unconditionally true just because it came from the spirit plane any more than we accept information we receive now just because we read it in the newspapers. That's true, right? Especially if you interact a lot, you still got to discern what's truth and what's error. Like some things you may get in a dream, or you may perceive to be a dream, but you really could be having an outer body experience. The information you get, you still have to assimilate it when you get back here. And a lot of times our understanding is off on what we see, or we don't really quite understand until sometime later as things actually begin to play out, right? Ananda, shalom, shalom. Oh, that's what I want to say. Also, if any of you went ahead and got the trilogy by Robert Monroe, he goes through and he explains some of these things he experienced with people who had just passed over as well. Because remember, y'all find out and realize that you are spirit inside of bodies, and you can have outer body experiences on purpose, almost at will. As you begin to understand, you can actually, I'm not saying you should do this, but if you just happen to be somewhere close when somebody passes, you can kind of like tap in and see and talk to them, right? Robert Monroe's trilogy, Journeys Out of the Body, he goes through a lot of those things and what he experienced. You probably get more into it when you get to the second book. Definitely the third book. The third book, all the books, his books are amazing. And he goes through what he's learned. And every time he's come back, he's wrote things down and he looked into it, had scientists looking into this, testing this. And they're like, how are you getting this? Listen, you go into the meditative state, you can see the other realm and bring back information. Y'all got to get it. It's all on Audible if you don't have the time to sit and read. But I'm telling you, listening to that trilogy will help you greatly, especially if you've been in the habit of experiencing spiritual things anyway. Like kind of like by default, you still just trying to figure out what's going on, trying to get your groundings. It'll help you understand a lot. Remember Robert Monroe? Robert Monroe is who Dr. Thomas Campbell mentioned in My Big Toe. We found out about him through My Big Toe, went searching. He got a whole university out here in Virginia. I'm going to visit that university institution. I don't know when. It's about 4 hours away from here. But I'm going to make a trip one day. I've been looking into it. I don't know when I'm going to go, but I'm interested. Okay. Go back. We at 26 minutes. Oh. Okay, let's get through the introduction. We'll see where we at in like 4 minutes, because I want to keep it like 30 minutes and 30 minutes. Okay, hold on. We should not accept information as unconditionally true just because it came from the spirit plane any more than we accept information we receive now just because we read it in the newspapers. We should always subject information we receive to the test of our own inspired intelligence and reason, or else we are no better than puppets or automatons. OAHSPE does not purport, however, to have been written by angels who are far beyond us in life experience. Because of their long sojourn in the realm of the spirit, which is our true destiny as well, they are able to give us insights that are much more all-encompassing in scope and comprehension than what could be ascertained from anyone with limited experience. Think about Daniel, the book of Daniel, when the angels or the messengers showed up and he went to bow to them. Daniel, do not bow to us. We are as you of your brethren. That caught my attention before I even heard about any of this extra stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? That's an angel. How are you his brethren? I completely understand some of the things that will be saying that are in plain sight, but we're just taught to look at it in a different way and completely miss the truth that's been right in front of our face. And if it was a snake, it would have bit you. Because of their long sojourn in the realm of the spirit, which is our true destiny as well, they are able to give us insights that are much more all-encompassing in scope and comprehension than what could be ascertained from anyone with limited experience. One must also understand that Dr. Monroe was not perfect. He was neither a prophet nor a saint. He was merely a well-developed medium who became the most convenient and suitable tool in the hands of the angelic overshadowing when they were ready to accomplish this task of transmitting OAHSPE. The value in the content of the book, the value is in the content of the book and not in who wrote it. If it had fallen from the sky in a flash of light, its value as a source of information would not have been proved by that event if the message it contained had been lacking in relevance or truth. There have been other books written under inspiration both before and after OAHSPE was published. Many of those books included similar information, and one should expect this to occur. OAHSPE is truly unique, however, in its scope and comprehensive OAHSPE is truly unique, however, in its scope and comprehensive overview of the subject. Several years after the publishing of OAHSPE, Dr. Monroe found a utopian community for raising orphan children based on the model given in the Book of Shalom, which appears near the end of OAHSPE. Unfortunately, this ambiguous project was an example of what an incredible degree of willpower and an incredible amount of money could accomplish when the quality of the people needed to make such an undertaking a success was sadly lacking. The Book of Shalom was meant to be a parable, an allegory, a lesson in the form of a story used to illustrate what the society of the future will be like when humanity has progressed to a point in this new era where it will be able to live in a higher way. This transformation will not be sudden, nor will it occur through the imposition of a proverbial utopia, kind of like what Christianity is teaching and other religions are teaching. It ain't going to happen that way. Earth is not going to end. It's just going to be a slow progress, and time is going to continue to go on, right? This transformation will not be sudden, nor will it occur through the imposition of a proverbial utopia. Rather, the implication is that this societal shift will first develop from a new social structure that functions in parallel with the old, but which will gradually displace the old by attrition, not revolution. This will be a world in which a society governed by rigid laws and regulations, self-serving majorities, and special interests will be gradually supplanted by an alternate society governed by sincere selflessness and compassion, with a commonly held reverence for our Creator by conviction and choice, not by force. The culmination will be a society that universally recognizes and nurtures that of God in everyone, and intuitively structures its community and interpersonal relationships accordingly. As difficult as it may be to comprehend, all wars and terrorism will have ceased. Unfortunately, as a society, we are not much closer to that state of mind now than when we were more than a century ago when Dr. Monroe's Shalom was attempted. But that does not mean that such a harmonious, selfless order of society will never come to pass. And according to OAHSPE, just the first arc of this era, called Cosmon, spans approximately 3,000 years. Dr. Monroe, however, embraced the idea of this possibility with a passion, and after several false starts and many difficulties, he managed to set the stage for his experiment near Las Cruces, I probably said that wrong, New Mexico. Cruces, La Cruz, Mexico, maybe the S Society, I don't know. In 1884, an undertaking of such magnitude at that time would not have been easy under the best of circumstances, but Dr. Newbrough made the project unnecessarily complicated and burdensome by his mistaken conviction to interpret the Book of Shalom literally and go into a place where the world's people would not live to make it a place of peace and plenty. It is easy to say in retrospect that the project was driven more by blind idealism than by common sense, but the fact remains that the effort was a sad failure and a painful lesson in the realities of human nature in its present undeveloped state. For a factual, reasonably unbiased, and scholarly account of this experiment, we recommend reading Shalom, Utopia on the Rio Grande, 1881 through 1907 by Lee Priestley, 1998, El Paso, Texas, Texas Western Press, or viewing the documentary Utopia on the Rio Grande by Robin Rowley, 2010. John B. Newbrough was born on June 5th, 1828 in Mohicanville, Ohio, near Worcester. Though he was raised on a farm by a family with limited means, he eventually was able to attend Cincinnati Medical College and establish himself as a practicing physician. During his schooling, however, he gained experience in dentistry, and after finding life as a physician too disturbing for his sensitive nature, he turned his efforts to dentistry instead. He became a dentist. Following the completion of his education, he joined the 1849 gold rush to California, where he was successful at accumulating a small fortune. He later compounded that fortune in the gold fields of Australia. He then moved on to world travel, eventual marriage, and by about 1859, he established residency in New York City. There, he pursued his practice in dentistry for the next 25 years. He became one of the prominent dentists of New York City, and he was innovative enough to develop a revolutionary and inexpensive composition for dental plates that made the appliances more accessible to the poor. I think I'm going to pause after this next little paragraph, and we will move on to the meditation book. Lindsay, y'all, shalom. I'm trying to take my time, bro. I really want to finish reading it, but I really want to read the other book too. Where we at? Yeah. Because we still got like 3 pages to read. Okay. Throughout his life, Dr. Newbrough displayed a natural mediumistic ability of high caliber. He often received spirit communications that made him aware that there is more to the world around us than what is apparent to our normally limited senses, and that there is much more meaning and purpose to our lives than what we can deduce from our experience during our limited time on the mortal plane. He became convinced that the information received from friends and relatives who had crossed the veil of limited value, and that if he wanted to receive enlightened information from more highly developed sources, he needed to prepare himself in ways that would make him more amenable to their enlightened presence. Perhaps this notion was impressed upon him by those in spirit who were already grooming him as a potential candidate for the imminent transmission of OAHSPE. Whether or not the idea was inspired, he did convert to a strict vegetarian lifestyle, and he followed a prayerful discipline to purify both mind and body. During this time, he continued to be exercised for mediumistic development and an overshadowing that asked him countless questions no mortal could answer intelligently, but perhaps directed his mind into a more spiritually compatible point of reference, right? And we know that to be true. Those of us who have gone to plant-based lifestyles, of vegan, or vegetarianism, when you change your eating lifestyle and what you put in your body, your spirit, not only does your body, your flesh become lighter, right? And it begins to heal if you're doing it the right way. And don't become a junk food vegan, junk food vegetarian. I'm talking about really putting plant-based living foods in your body. You're not only does your body begin to transform, but your spirit also begins to transform. And if you could see your spirit, you would see that blemishes on your spirit. I know sometimes we're taught that the spirit is like perfect, but I'm understanding it to be just a little bit different now. It is perfect in a way, but there are blemishes that are on our spirit due to the behavior in the flesh. It's almost like there are holes and dark spots in our spirits, right? So, and by eating, what we eat will cause a certain type of aura around you or on your spirit where you look a certain way. You look dull, like you don't shine as bright as you should be. And if you could see yourself spiritually, you'd be like, hold on, what are we doing wrong? We got some work to do. I should not be not glowing. I should be glowing, my G. Some of us are not glowing, right? But when you begin to change your eating habits and your lifestyle, and I brought all that up to say, once you begin to do that, you will realize that you become a more spiritual person, so to speak. Like it just automatically clicks you in to hearing the spiritual realm in a way that you have never heard it before. It becomes clear. It's like your ears, your physical ears and your spiritual ears get unclogged just a little bit more. It's amazing. I'm serious. Like, and if you're a dreamer, your dreams will ramp up. That's why, like, when you fast and stuff, dreams become, whatever your gift is, it just ramps up by like 100 times, depending on how long you fast, right? And what you're doing on your fast. If you're denying your flesh everything that it enjoys, I'm telling you, your spirit will ramp up and go take control of this monster, this beast, and start driving it the way it should be driven. I heard one of my pastors say years ago, people who deal with addictions and any kind of addictions, sexual addictions, alcohol addictions, you got to look at it in the physical, because when you go into rehab, what do? You're fasting from that vice that you had so you can get free, and you go through withdrawals and stuff, but it makes you stronger. Fasting is a detoxification for not just the flesh, but also the spirit. Even people who are demon possessed, they can fast. If they have enough strength, they can fast, and that demon will come out, because it becomes too, you're starving them of what you had been feeding that spirit before, to where it can take over you. Like they flee. So some stuff I learned and experienced. Okay. During this time, he continued to be exercised for medium mystic development by an overshadowing that asked him countless questions no mortal could answer intelligently, but perhaps directed his mind into a more spiritually compatible point of reference. When his overshadowing decided that the time had come, that conditions were finally suitable, and that Dr. Monroe was the vehicle of choice to be used, he suddenly began to receive OAHSPE. He was told to purchase a typewriter and to sit for half an hour before dawn daily, at which time the angelic overshadowing typed the manuscript through his hands. He was instructed to put all the typed pages aside until the work was completed. Then, after working for 1 year, he was told to read and publish the text. It would be logical to assume that the angelic overshadowing who cultivated Dr. Monroe's development for the specific task of transmitting OAHSPE would also develop other mediums for the same purpose at the same time. We've seen this before. Grand Rising, Uncle JB. We've seen this before. You read the book of Ezra, second Esdras, right? We see that happening with Ezra, right? And was it 4 or 5 scribes? Y'all told him, he said, okay, he said fast. And he took Ezra through a period of fasting and cleansing himself, because Ezra was distraught. He said, yeah, your Torah is burnt. He said, give it to me and I'll rewrite it so we can give it to your people, so we can read it to your people. He said, okay, Ezra, my G, I'm going to take you up on that. But we got to cleanse you first for what needs to happen. If we're going to get this to you, you're going to need some help. Go find 4 of the wisest scribes who are noble, who live clean lives. Get them. I'm going to use them because I'm going to overshadow you. You're going to speak. They're going to write, right? You're going to write during the day. You're going to sleep during the night, right? And that's what they did over a period of, if I remember correctly, it was 40 days. If I remember correctly, there was a couple different times, right, where he was fasting and different things was happening. And each time his diet of what he was eating changed to where it was like vegetables, then it was fruits, then it was like the flowers of the field, and it was nothing, right? So he was building him up to that place, and the overshadowing began, and the Torah was rewritten. And I want to say it was a period of 40 days. They wrote over 200 and I forget the amount of books, 200 something books during that period of 40 days. Okay. It would be logical to assume that the angelic overshadowing who cultivated Dr. Nubro's development for the specific task of transmitting OAHSPE would also develop other mediums for the same purpose at the same time. It would seem unnecessarily risky to place all your hopes for so important a task upon one individual, and by nurturing several mediums at the same time, it would be easier to determine who had developed the qualities most suited to their purpose. There is ample evidence to suggest that this may well have been their methodology, since several highly developed mediums living at that time also received high-quality communications, some of which included information similar to aspects of the messages Dr. Nubro received. We believe these other writings support and confirm the value of OAHSPE and suggest that other individuals were being cultivated simultaneously for the same possible purpose. Even OAHSPE states that other people in other places would be inspired similarly and that they would be brought together. Although it seems that other avenues may have been explored, it is evident that Dr. Nubro displayed the right degree of development at the right time, and consistently the task of producing OAHSPE was placed in his hands. It is worth reiterating that this was not done because he was a high-raised prophet or saint, but because he was simply a very talented and highly developed medium in the right place at the opportune moment. Okay, and we're going to pause right here. But I'll go back and I'll reread this last paragraph so it'll flow right into this tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to pause right here. We are on page Roman numeral XV. Remember that. Because I'm going to have to Google it to get what that is. I think it's like X is 10, V is 5. So maybe page 15. I don't know. Could be. All right. Page 21, meditation. Who were the ancient Egyptians and what is yoga philosophy? 15. Okay, 15. Thank you, Auntie. 15. Okay. So I calculated right, but I wasn't sure. Because one time I tried to calculate Roman numerals. I think it was during the Super Bowl. And I kind of had it backwards. I think I flipped the 4 and the 4 and the 6 around. I got all screwed up. I was like, I need to Google this. What does this Roman numeral mean? I was like, yeah, I screwed it all up. Okay. The ancient Egyptian religion, Shetaut Neteru, language and symbols provide the first historical record of yoga philosophy and religious literature. Egyptian yoga is what has been commonly referred to by Egyptologists as Egyptian religion or mythology, but to think of it as just another set of stories or allegories about a long-lost civilization is to completely miss the greatest secret of human existence. Yoga, in all of its forms and disciplines of spiritual development, was practiced in Egypt earlier than anywhere else in history. This unique perspective from the highest philosophical system, which developed in Africa over 7,000 years ago, provides a new way to look at life, religion, the discipline of psychology, and the way to spiritual development, leading to spiritual enlightenment. Egyptian mythology, when understood as a system of yoga, union of the individual soul with the universal soul or supreme consciousness or your spirit in line or connected to Yah's spirit. That's what it really is. The connection between spirit here with the great spirit, right? We're completely taught about yoga the wrong way, right? Egyptian mythology, when understood as a system of yoga, union of the individual soul with the universal soul or supreme consciousness, gives every individual insight into their own divine nature and also a deeper insight into all religions and yoga systems. Peace and blessings, Jerry. Francis says, OAHSPE is the best on-time lines in history from creation of heaven and earth. I agree with that. Read the last paragraph and start fresh tomorrow. I am Audrey. All right. Hold on, I need a sip of water. I keep clearing my throat, but I ain't took a sip of water yet. Okay. Diodorus Siculus, Greek historian, writes in the time of Augustus, 1st century BC, quote, "Now the Ethiopians, as historians relate, were the first of all men, and the proofs of this statement, they say, are manifest. For that they did not come into their land as immigrants from abroad, but were natives of it, and so justly bear the name of autochthones." I don't know how to say that. AUTOCHTHONES. And it means sprung from the soil itself. Let me read it again. For that they did not come into their land as immigrants from abroad, but were the natives of it, and so justly bear the name of autochthones, sprung from the soil itself, is, they maintain, conceded by practically all men, ... And it ends that quote, but it continues quoting what he said. They also say that the Egyptians are colonists sent out by the Ethiopians, Asar having been the leader of the colony. For speaking generally, what is now Egypt, they maintain was not land, but sea, when in the beginning the universe was being formed. Afterwards, however, as the Nile, during the times of its inundation, carried down the mud from Ethiopia, land was gradually built up from the deposit, and the larger parts of the customs of the Egyptians are, they hold, Ethiopian. The colonists still preserving their ancient manners. For instance, the belief that their kings are gods, the very special attention which they pay to their burials, and many other matters of a similar nature are Ethiopian practices, talking about how the Egyptians practice. Egyptians were nothing more than like a tiger team. I call them a tiger team. A tiger team sent out from Ethiopia. Egyptians are Ethiopians. It's just a group that they sent down to create another place, to build civilization a little bit further away from them. So Egyptians are Ethiopians. Okay. For instance, the belief that their kings are gods, the very special attention which they pay to their burials, and many other matters of a similar nature are Ethiopian practices, while the shapes of their statutes and the forms of their letters are Ethiopian. For of the two kinds of writing which the Egyptians have, that which is known as popular or demotic is learned by everyone, while that which is called sacred, hieratic, I said that wrong, HIERATIC, while that which is called sacred, heretic, is understood only by the priests of the Egyptians, who learned it from their fathers, as one of the things which are not divulged, but among the Ethiopians everyone uses these forms of letters. Furthermore, the orders of the priests, they maintain, have much the same position among both peoples. Oh, y'all, I'm clearing my throat. Okay, that's good. Whew. Okay. Furthermore, the orders of the priests they maintain have much the same position among both peoples, for all are clean who are engaged in the service of the gods, keeping themselves shaven like the Ethiopian priests, and having the same dress and form of staff, which is shaped like a plow and is carried by their kings, who wear high felt hats, which end in a knob at the top, that are circled by the serpents which they call asps. And this symbol appears to carry the thought that it will be the lot who shall dare to attack the king, to encounter death-carrying stings. Many other things are told by them concerning their own antiquity, and the colony which they sent out became the Egyptians. But about this there is no special need of our writing anything. End quote. Okay, the next page is talking about the Egyptian text states, quote, our people originated at the base of the mountain of the moon at the origin of the Nile River. Kemet, Egypt, burnt, land of blackness, land of the burnt people. Right here. So this is the hieroglyph. I need to get a little bit close. Okay, so this is what that says, right? Kemet. All right. Kemet, or ancient Egypt, is situated close to Lake Victoria in present-day Africa. This is the same location where the earliest human remains have been found in the land currently known as Ethiopia, Tanzania. Recent genetic technology, as reported in the new encyclopedias and leading news publications, has revealed that all the peoples of the world originated in Africa and migrated to other parts of the world prior to the last ice age 40,000 years ago. Therefore, as of this time, genetic testing has revealed that all humans are alike. The earliest bone fossils which have been found in many parts of the world were those of the African Grimaldi type. During the Ice Age, it was not possible to communicate or to migrate. Those trapped in specific locations were subject to the regional forces of weather and climate. Less warmer climates required less body pigment, thereby producing lighter pigmented people who now differ from their dark-skinned ancestors. After the Ice Age, when travel was possible, these light-skinned people who had lived in the northern, colder regions of harsh weather during the Ice Age period moved back to the warmer climates of their ancestors and mixed with the people there who had remained dark-skinned, thereby introducing the Semitic colored people. The Semitic colored people. They call us Semitic colored. Semite means mixture of skin color shades, or the copper colored people, right? Therefore, there is only one human race who, due to different climatic and regional exposure, changed to a point where there seemed to be different types of people. Differences were noted with respect to skin color, hair texture, customs, languages, and with respect to the essential nature, psychological, and emotional makeup due to the experiences each group had to face and overcome in order to survive. From a philosophical standpoint, the question as to the origin of humanity is redundant when it is understood that all come from one origin, which some choose to call the Big Bang and others the Supreme Being. Quote, thou makest the color of the skin of one race to be different from that of another. But however many may be the varieties of mankind, it is thou that makes them all to live. End quote. Ancient proverb from the hymns of Amun. Quote, souls, Haru, sun, are of the self-same nature, since they came from the same place where the Creator modeled them. Nor male nor female are they. Sex is a thing of bodies, not of souls. End quote. ancient Egyptian proverb from the teachings of Aset to Haru. Historical evidence proves that Ethiopia, Nubia, already had kingdoms at least 300 years before the first kingdom pharaoh of Egypt. Quote, ancient Egypt was a colony of Nubia, Ethiopia, Asar having been the leader of the colony. End quote. Quote, and upon his return to Greece, they gathered around and asked, tell us about this great land of the blacks called Ethiopia. And Herodotus said, there are two great Ethiopian nations, one in Sind, and in parentheses it has India, and the other in Egypt, end quote. Recorded by Egyptian high priest Manetho, 300 BC, also recorded by Diodorus, Greek historian, 100 BC. Pyramids themselves, however, cannot be dated, but indications are that they existed far back in antiquity. The pyramid texts, hieroglyphs inscribed on pyramid walls, and coffin texts, hieroglyphics inscribed on coffins, speak authoritatively on the constitution of the human spirit, the vital life force along the human spinal cord, known in India as Kundalini, the immortality of the soul, reincarnation, and the law of cause and effect, known in India as the law of karma. Below, Egyptian man and woman, tomb of Peri, 18th dynasty, displaying the naturalistic style as people really appeared in ancient times. Oh man, we had 59 minutes. Ugh. Boy, time be flying. Okay, we'll stop after. Why is it necessary to study religion? Okay. The next page, they both like real short. So I'm going to just go ahead and show it to you. You got a chart. I'm going to read these words. And you got the little, what is that? The flower. I traced it with my gold ink pen. Or my gold confetti pen when I first got it. I was just going through. Okay. Ancient Kemetic terms and ancient Greek terms. In keeping with the spirit of the culture of Kemetic spirituality, in this volume we will use the Kemetic names for the divinities through which we will bring forth the philosophy of the Per-Im-Haru. Remember, the Per-Im-Haru is, they mislabel it, the Book of the Dead, but it's called the Book of Coming Forth by Day. It's literally a book of life. Zoe, that's why I was Shayla. Hey, girl, hey. I think I might have said hey. Sometimes I repeat y'all names because I don't remember if I had already said hey to y'all, but it's always good to say hey again. Marshall Fluff, shalom on Facebook. Okay. In keeping with the spirit of the culture of Kemetic spirituality, in this volume we will use the Kemetic names for the divinities through which we will bring forth the philosophy of the Per-Im-Haru. Therefore, the Greek name Osiris will be converted back to the Kemetic ancient Egyptian Asar, the Greek Isis to Aset, the Greek Nephthys to Nebuhet, Anubis to Ampu or Apuat Hathor to Anubis to Anpu or Apuat Hathor to Hetheru, Thoth or Hermes to Jehudi, etc. See the tablet below. Further, the term ancient Egypt will also be used interchangeably with Kemet or Tameri, as these are the terms used by the ancient Egyptians to refer to their land and culture. Okay, so it's two lists. The first list is Kemetic ancient Egyptian names, and then on the right side is the Greek name. So I'm going to do it one and one. So Amun is also, Amun, how am I going to say this? In Kemet or ancient Egypt, Amun is known as Zeus in Greek. In Kemet, Ra is known as Helios in Greek. In Kemet, Ptah, which I remember Ptah, Inky, right? Ptah. Remember, names are changing over time, right? So they keep changing. Just like certain people name certain races of people, they keep changing their names and who they are as you go throughout time, right? You get further and further away from the original names of who they were truly known as, right? Okay. Ptah in Kemet is known as Hephaestos in Greek. Newt is spelled as nut, N-U-T, but it's pronounced Newt. Newt in Kemet is known as Rhea, or Rhea, R-H-E-A in Greek. Geb in Kemet is known as Chronos in Greek. Net in Kemet is known as Athena in Greek. Khonsu in Kemet is known as Heracles in Greek. Set in Kemet is known as Eris or Typhon in, oh my goodness, hold on, that just clicked. Yo. Ooh, this book I got. I just made a connection with that. Okay, I gotta go back. Okay. Set in Kemet is known as Ares or Typhon in Greek. Bast, we heard of Bast. Bast in Kemet is known as Artemis in Greek. Uajit, U-A-D-J-I-T, I probably pronounced that wrong. Uajit in Kemet is known as Leto in Greek. Asar in Kemet is known as Osiris or Hades in Greek. Aset in Kemet is known as Isis or Demeter in Greek. Nebahet in Kemet is known as Nephthys in Greek. Anpu or Apuat in Kemet is known as Anubis in Greek. Neteru in Kemet is known as Hathor or Aphrodite in Greek. Heru in Kemet is known as Horus or Apollo in Greek. Jehudi in Kemet is known as Thoth or Hermes in Greek. Ma'at in Kemet is known as Astral or Themis in Greek. Okay, and that was the end of the chart, the names and stuff. So now this next page with the flower is just saying that this is the introduction to Shetaut Neteru, ancient Egyptian African religion, and to Sematwai Egyptian yoga. Why is it necessary? We're going to pause after this right here. Why is it necessary to study religion? In order to fully understand the process of Kammashan meditation, or the meditation as taught by Kemet or ancient Egypt, in order to fully understand the process of Kammashan meditation, it is necessary to have a basic understanding of Kammashan religion, as the two aspects of ancient Egyptian African culture are related. Firstly, meditation is the ultimate goal of all religions and all disciplines that promote spiritual evolution. We know that to be true in Christianity, although they don't really talk about it a lot. Y'all speaks about it even in the book of Joshua. Meditate on his Torah day and night, that we may make our way successful before us, right? Firstly, meditation is the ultimate goal of all religions and all disciplines that promote spiritual evolution. Meditation is the final outcome of a life lived righteously, intelligently, lovingly, and with strength of will on the spiritual path. So the yogic disciplines have been designed to augment the practice of religion. Religion means to return or rejoin the spirit with the higher self. The religion of ancient Kemet incorporated several traditions, each of which enjoined a variation on the practice of divine worship and meditation based on the particular divinity of that tradition. However, it was always recognized that all the divinities are in reality aspects of the transcendental divinity, which has neither shape nor form nor name. Let me read that again. However, let me go back. The religion of ancient Kemet incorporated several traditions, each of which enjoined a variation on the practice of divine worship and meditation based on the particular divinity of that tradition. However, it was always recognized that all the divinities are in reality aspects of the transcendental divinity, which has neither shape nor form nor name. So just as in other African religions, see the book African Origins by OAHSPE. The religion of ancient Egypt, or Shetaut Neteru, is composed of an advanced system by which human beings can discover the transcendental divine, or how we can discover Yah, right? Therefore, this first section of this book will present an overview of Shetaut Neteru, or Netarian religion, or Netarianism of ancient Egypt, Africa, and also the Sema disciplines, or what is in modern times referred to as yoga, that was practiced in ancient times and can be practiced today in order to advance on the spirit of Khemet spirituality, spiritual traditions of ancient Egypt, Africa. All right, and so that's where we'll let me just read this Netarianism. It's like really short, 3 sentences. Netarianism, the oldest religion in history. The term Netarianism is derived from the name Shetaut Neteru, and Shetaut Neteru is spelled S-H, just in case you want to look into it, S-H-E-T-A-U-T, and the next word is Neter, N-E-T-E-R. The term Netarianism is derived from the name Shetaut Neteru. Shetaut Neteru means hidden divinity. It is the ancient philosophy and mythic spiritual culture that gave rise to the ancient Egyptian civilization. Those who follow the spiritual path of Shetaut Neteru are therefore referred to as Netarians. The fundamental principles common to all denominations of ancient Egyptian religion may be summed up in 4 great truths that are common to all the traditions of ancient Egyptian religion. And that's where we'll pause at, because the next part gets into some of the hieroglyphs, and it deciphers them for you. So we'll get into that tomorrow. I'll probably reread what I just read about Netarianism, and then we'll pick it up from there. So, all right, beautiful people. I hope you enjoyed the reading for the day. I'll put my page number. All right, y'all. Today it is Tuesday, April the 12th, 2022, day 80 of year 4, reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1098. Today we read a little bit more of the introduction in OAHSPE. We said, yeah, a little bit more of the introduction of OAHSPE, and we paused on page XV 15. And then we came over to meditation and we read pages 21 through 27. All right, beautiful people, that is it for today. I don't have anything else to share. Nothing is coming up. Just remember the Sabbath is, the moon cycle is on Saturday. Passover coming up. That's what I meant to say. And I still didn't write it down in here. So you need to calculate from the first day from the new moon, right? Did I write it in here? I wrote it in my, cited it. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so remember, Passover will begin. Oh, look at this. This my book is labeled right. That's crazy. Look, I just calculated myself because a couple people been asking me, but I've been forgetting to calculate it because I just kind of snap into it. But if you got to remove leaven from your house, you should be doing that now, right? Because it needs to be all out of your house by Passover, which is the 14th day of the month, right? And the very next day begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But with your Passover meal, you shouldn't be eating anything with yeast or leaven in it either, right? According to Torah. But it's funny. I went back and I counted through here. I didn't write anything down. I just put new moon sighting, which we sighted it on Saturday, April the 2nd. I sighted with my own eyes for the first time in a few months, right? And I was actually out driving. I wasn't out looking for it this time. I had to run to the store, and I just happened to look up. I'm like, there you go, right? And mind you, she only shows for about 4 to 5 hours that night, but I just happened to look up, and there she was, the little bit of light in her disc, right? So you start counting that day, right? But if you're counting for the Sabbath day, you need to start with the first day of light, which will be the next day. Remember, because the new moon shows in the evening of the last day of the previous month, right? So that it counts as day one, but it's like the first night, because she shows, like, you know, the first day will be tomorrow when the sun rises, because the previous day would be like the 30th day, or if you're using the Gregorian calendar, the 31st day of that particular month. Next day, count number one, right? So the first day we see the sun after we see the new moon, to count the Sabbath days would be that next day, right? So it's almost kind of like two counters. At least that's how I understand it best, to keep my count on track. But what is crazy is that this book actually calculated the best, right? I just like this at a glance because I like how the pages are, how I can write in it. But anyway, this year it calculated it correct, because at the top it says, I don't even look at Good Friday, but it actually has Passover begins at sundown. And that's how I literally just calculated it, right? So Passover, it's the 15th day of April according to the Gregorian calendar, but according to Yah's calendar, it is the 14th day of the first month, right? And it's Passover. The next day begins unleavened bread, right? And so y'all know how the feast goes. So if you're observing, observe well. Enjoy this Passover holiday. You want to call it a holiday, holy day, right? All right. And that's enough for today. So in a couple of days, if y'all ain't been preparing, y'all had better get on it, right? I've been doing good the last few years, reminding y'all of stuff. And not that y'all need it, but I put it out there. But sometimes I'll just not say nothing just to see if somebody else is paying attention or if they following. And you really don't have to, because I'm not judging jury, right? You just got to practice stuff in your own life, you know. But it's good to know when people say, oh, did you remember this? Oh, okay, you actually doing something. You paying attention, you following along, you keeping your own count. All right, y'all. With that being said, may y'all continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do. May your understanding turn into wisdom for your life and those who observe your life, where they can glean wisdom in lieu of experience on things that they don't necessarily need to go through that could cause destruction in their life. So blessings for you in all that you do. And may everything you touch be blessed, right? And even if it's not, may it turn around for your good and bless you anyhow. I love y'all. I see y'all back here tomorrow, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.